On the Spot with LuxLiv, talking property, business, and success in real estate.
Hi, Deb.
Hi,
How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks so much for coming. I'm looking forward to have a nice chat with you. It's always an absolute revelation when I talk to you. So I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it again today. And I hope we can find value also for aspiring real estate agents or people that actually want to go into any form of business, because I really think what you do for a living is definitely uplifting people and making them more successful in whatever area of life they decide to go into. So when I was preparing for this, I was thinking to myself, how did I meet you? And the story is very interesting. At school, I always wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be a trendsetter, but I had a tremendous fear of the stage. So very early in my school career, I tried one or two auditions for various school events, and I failed dismally because my throat would constrict and I would just not be able to do anything. And when my kids were born, I knew that I wanted them to be comfortable on the stage, because I could see how my husband's very comfortable talking in front of big crowds and all that, and it's helped him at work. And I just wanted to make sure it's the same for the kids. And you've now met both my kids. You know, my older son, immediately he took to it. It was no problem. But I don't know if you would remember, because it was many years ago, but my younger son, the first few times wouldn't even go on the stage, and he some would say a difficult child. Others would say an interesting child.
Interesting.
But I've now known you for many years, and I know that you don't just help children become comfortable, but you are now doing tremendous work for all my colleagues here, for myself in the office, and knowing what it does for us to put our best foot forward when people don't know us at all. Is important that we spread the word and maybe help people with the right mindset when they are, wanting to take basically the levels up a notch in whatever area they're in.
Absolutely. And the important thing to remember here is communication skills are vital. Whether you are communicating one-on-one with a client, whether you suddenly in a position where you have to do presentations in your field, your people suddenly needed to make videos. And it's really important that you come across confident, dynamic, because if you falter, if you come nervous, or perhaps your tone doesn't match what you're saying, your doesn't come across, and your believability, your ability to persuade, and people's ability to trust you is diminished, not because you're untrustworthy, but because your communication skills are lacking. And it always amazes me. People say, well, I'm just not a talented public speaker. I'm just not good at it. People don't realize it's a skill. It's a skill that you can be taught. And unfortunately, it is not done very well. Schooling system. I have many adults that come to me and say, I have to do presentations.
Yeah.
I'm terrified. Please help me. And also, it's a very real fear for people. It's up there. I think it's second to death, the fear of public speaking. So,
It was.
yeah,
It still is.
it's really strange, because what happens when you have to stand up and speak is your body pumps with adrenaline. And adrenaline is a fight or flight syndrome. And it's quite weird that your body thinks it either needs to fight or run, and all you're doing is speaking. But the moment you stand up, I will be with a group in a boardroom, and while they're sitting down, I'll say, introduce yourselves, and I'll go around the boardroom. Everybody will introduce themselves. It will be fine until I say, okay, stand up in front of the room and address everybody and introduce yourself. Suddenly the adrenaline pumps. So it is a natural thing. They've discovered that it's got a lot to do with the ego and the need to be liked, the need to be approved of. So what happens is the ego kicks in and goes, what if I make a mistake? What if I embarrass myself? This could be awful. And it really puts you in a feeling of being in danger.
Okay.
But that's really, and once you understand that that's just the ego, and when you understand what adrenaline does to your body, and I'm aware of it, there's an interesting notion that what you look at disappears. And when you simply tell the truth about the feeling and look at the feeling, it tends to dissipate. Also, adrenaline only lasts a couple of seconds. I think it's about 30 to 60 seconds, and then it calms down. Unless you panic again, then
Yeah.
it'll come back. But that's why often you'll see people are really nervous at the beginning of a presentation, and then they seem to relax into it and get much more natural. So, but it is something that you can learn to manage. And a lot of it has to do with practice, having an opportunity to practice. And that's with me, that was luckily I joined Toastmasters. Obviously, this is something that I studied when I studied speech and drama and I studied teaching. And but once I got to Toastmasters, it gave me an audience to really practice on. And I learned so much watching people coming into the Toastmasters arena being so terrified, and then watching how just by having positive experiences, standing up and speaking on the stage, it creates a positive memory. And that's what happened with your son.
Okay.
We always made sure there was a lot of fun being on the stage. It was a positive experience to the point where now he loves being on the stage.
Yeah.
So, and the same with you. You're so much more confident now, and that's because you've had a lot of experience. You've given yourself experiences of being in front of an audience, and so the ego lets go of the idea that you're in danger and can actually even start enjoying it. I love it. I love being on stage. I love performing and speaking. Doesn't mean that the nervousness isn't there. Adrenaline can make you terrified or can help you sparkle.
Yeah. But I'm quite sure that preparation has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Preparation is really, really important, especially if it's a presentation, because if you're unprepared, the chances of making mistake are higher, and that's where the nervousness sets in. But you can also learn to improvise. So what you're doing right now is improvising.
Yeah.
You haven't given me a script. I haven't given
Yeah.
you a script. We're simply improvising. And that's also a skill.
Okay.
And that's also something that truth, because very often if you're in a boardroom, you aren't given the opportunity to prepare. They'll say, "Oh, Jessica, why don't you just tell us what you feel about?" And Jessica's going, "I didn't prepare anything," and then doesn't know what to say. So in the corporate world, a lot of the times, unless it's a presentation with a PowerPoint at a conference, you have to sometimes stand up and speak without any preparation. But again, having practice doing that will help the nerves, and you'll develop the skills to be able to think on your feet, to think of new ideas. And that's another skill that you can actually learn. And when we were younger, well, myself especially, there was no internet. And you didn't, you had to go to the library if you wanted to learn about public speaking or try and find a book on public speaking. Now there are videos, there are podcasts, there are trainers out there on video that you can watch, or join something like Toastmasters, or contact somebody who could help you with public speaking, because it is a skill that you can learn. And it is so important to be able to communicate confidently on your topic and be convincing and persuasive. And if you don't have the skills, or if you're terribly nervous, that's not going to happen.
Mm. So, I mean, I'm thinking in terms of real estate, because prior to doing the videos, we just did real estate, the traditional way, and you still needed to think on the spot to present yourself in a specific way. And last week we had a very interesting conversation with a real estate coach, and I think that was quite insightful for me, because I've now been doing real estate for 20 years, but we're training so many people, and what we see often is the amount of work that goes into the amount of work an agent or potential new agent puts into the learning the craft is very, very closely linked to the outcome. But one thing is definitely super important, and some of them can put the work, but they're not getting the desired results. And that is that, and it's hard for me to explain, but maybe you can explain that inner light and that positive energy, so that when they walk into the room, you're happy to be around them. And I see it with some of the agents that we're training. You so want them to be successful because they're putting so much effort into it, and you're thinking, what is lacking here? And it is that enthusiasm. And I'm guessing this is something that can also be flexed and learned, or again, are you born with or without enthusiasm?
No, you can definitely learn enthusiasm. And part of that comes from the passion, believing in your product, being
Yeah.
excited to share your product. That's really important. And believing that you're good at what you do, that helps too. So the moment you empower your agents with knowledge, you empower them to feel that they have skills and they can do what they do. I know your agents always say we are trained to death, but it's so important because the more you are trained, the more knowledge you have, the more confident you feel. And when you feel confident and passionate about your product, the result is enthusiasm, because in your mind, you're thinking, oh, I've got a great product here. I've got great ideas here. I'm excited to share them. There's a possible sale here. And so those thoughts engender enthusiasm. And that's where the light comes from. It's from the actual thoughts. Your thoughts very much decide your level of emotion. You know, people think, oh, I'm happy today. Why? It's because you're thinking happy thoughts, or I'm feeling really today. Why? Because you're thinking thoughts. Your thoughts create your feelings. And if you're thinking, oh, I'm not prepared. Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, if this client's really interested. Oh, is this going to work? There's no ways any sort of inner light has a chance of getting through, because your own coach in your head, which is basically your thoughts, are bringing your emotions down to a place of worry, frustration, um, anxiety, and it's very difficult to mask that. You can pretend to be really enthusiastic, but it's not going to come through genuinely.
Yeah.
Sometimes you meet someone really charismatic or charming, and you can't work out why. I'll tell you why. Their thoughts, their feeling, words, and their actions are lining up.
Okay.
And what happens is they're thinking, oh, I'm so excited about this house or this product or this, whatever it is in your business. And I know about it and I'm excited about sharing this information with you. And I know you're going to love it too. And when you're thinking that, and then it comes through in your voice, it comes through in your gestures, it comes through in your face and in your words, and they all line up, something magical happens. But if the words, you say people pay lip service.
Yeah.
If the words are, I'm really excited about this product, but the voice is saying, I'm really excited about this product.
Yeah.
There's a mismatch. A lot of communication comes through body language and tone of voice, not just the words. That's why it's so much better to send a voice note rather than a text, because you can't hear the tone of voice in the text.
Okay.
And that's why being aware of how you sound. And I know people hate listening to themselves, and
Yeah.
I know that's why I make your agents watch their videos and listen to themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's really important to hear, how am I sounding? How am I sounding to people? Is that enthusiasm that I'm feeling coming through, or have I got lazy in my communication skills? Don't allow that enthusiasm to come through. And that's why when I'm working with people, I break down the patterns that you've created. We create patterns and we become lazy in our communication.
Okay.
And we also tend to dampen down our communication. We're not allowed to be extra. We're not allowed to be too loud, too excited, but that's what sells. That's what's going to make people buy into your ideas and into your product or into the home you're selling, is that level of enthusiasm, that little bit of extra that you give. It makes you more dynamic, more powerful. And that is something that you can practice and learn.
And I mean, I have definitely seen it. I mean, we've worked together for a few years now, and you have worked with a lot of agents, and it definitely it almost gets you worried initially when you see someone, maybe the enthusiasm's not there, and you try and get it up a notch, and if it does work, then you see the results. But sometimes I don't know if people maybe come with the wrong mindset, because real estate on the surface, I call it's like Instagram. You just look the flashy stuff.
Glamorous.
You look at those big houses. You look at someone posing with the "I just sold this property" sign, or look at me with the happy buyer with the hamper in the middle, and unfortunately, it doesn't even scratch the surface of all the hard work that goes behind it. But apart from you have to work hard, but you also have to be excited. You also have to look top form. You have to look at it. You can't be tired. So there's so many factors in it that, as passionate as I am to get people completely fresh, with no experience to get into the industry, you find they battle to keep that all these factors on a high level for a very prolonged period of time.
It's like you develop an inner muscle.
Yeah.
So the inner muscle is to keep your thoughts on track and
Yeah.
keep your intentions on track. So whenever I'm walking into a situation with a client, I'm very clear on my intentions on how it's going to go. On the way here, I had a very specific intention about how this interaction was going to go.
Okay.
And when your intentions are positive, what happens is you kind of prepare or prepave the way to have a positive experience. And if your intention is positive and my intention is positive and they line up, then magic begins to happen.
Mm.
Now, occasionally, your intention is really positive and you're walking into a client or into a buyer who is not as positive.
Yeah.
That's when your intention needs to be more powerful and your persuasive skills and your willingness to stay true to your intention, not catch their mood or catch their feelings
Yeah.
and start worrying or getting anxious, or because the dominant mood or the dominant intention is going to be the one that surfaces in the end or that wins.
Right.
So it's really about monitoring your own ability to stay upbeat, to keep your thoughts positive, to keep your intentions positive, and not give yourself away to the negativity or the drama or the frustrations or the, and it's hard to do. It's not
Yes.
something that we do naturally, because we tend to give ourselves away to dramas. We give ourselves away to people's negativity. We worry if a client is awful to us, or if,
Yeah.
if
We do.
somebody doesn't like us, or we take that all quite seriously. But developing the inner muscle and training yourself to keep your intentions clear and stay at your center, and where you are always calm, always confident, always believing in yourself, because then you're not touched by your ego or other people's egos. You can stay firmly in place. And we don't. I mean, I try, but we don't always stay positive and clear. We do
Yeah.
give ourselves away to dramas. We do get despondent. We do become frustrated. But life is about contrast. You won't know what it's like to feel calm and centered without being dramatic and panicky and extra sometimes. So we need the contrast, but the opportunity is just to notice, oh, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Let me bring myself back to my center, back to my intentions, back to my positivity, because I know that works. And every now and then, dip your toe into the lower emotions of frustration, of overwhelm, of desperation, but notice, okay, I'm here. Why? What is my thinking? Let me think a more empowering thought. Let me touch into my experiences and my memories of myself as a powerful, confident, competent person that has had success. And when you can do that and call on those memories rather than calling on the memories where you've messed up, you're more likely to bring yourself into a more positive frame of mind. And that is the way, especially if you're in the sales field, you need to have the inner muscle and keep constantly working on yourself to keep that positivity, keep those intentions clear, and keep yourself centered and not give yourself away to the drama.
It's funny you say, especially into sales. And I mean, real estate, and often people say, "No, I'm not good at sales." But in actual fact, everyone has to be into sales on some level, because even the accountant has to persuade me that they're the right accountant for me. So they still have to sell themselves. And I feel often we make choices just on that energy, that feel that we get. And pretty much it helps for everyone to have the right intention with every interaction, regardless of what job they're in.
Exactly. I always say every speech is a persuasive speech.
Yeah.
Every interaction is persuasion at some level. You're always trying to persuade, even if you're trying to get your son out of bed to get dressed for school, there's persuasion going on. So,
Selling the option of the cold outside.
yes,
and school.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and if you can be aware of that and realize that you are persuading and know what you're persuading and feel passionate and confident about what you are persuading, all about. That's when things really work out. If you're not confident in your product, get confident, learn about it, just the positive aspects of it. Develop a passion for whatever you are doing. I remember when I was working with your agents, I asked them, what is it that you love about this? And their eyes lit up, and the passion and love of selling houses, of making clients happy, of seeing a sale happen, all of this, by the time we'd shared, the whole room was vibrant and alive, and everybody's mood was way up there. Reason being, they were all thinking and listening and sharing and agreeing on a very positive mindset regarding this business. If I had asked them, what are your struggles? What are your difficulties? What are your frustrations? Why is this a hard business to be in? By the time we'd gone around the circle, they would have all left your business. So
For sure. Yeah.
you have a choice about where you place your focus. And that's really important. I'm not a big believer in positive thinking. Positive thinking doesn't always work because you can go, I'm a really, really happy person. And your mind is going, yeah, right. Or I'm so successful. Got no money in my bank account, but I'm really, really successful. It's not really going to work. But what you can do is you can focus on the positive. In any moment, you can look at the situation around you and find. And that's always going to lift your mood, improve your intention, and bring forth your inner light. So just shifting your gear to what are the positive aspects about this home that I'm selling? What are the positive aspects of my business that I'm selling? What are the positive aspects of myself, if it's myself that I'm selling, my service?
Yeah.
And being aware of that, because as soon as you start to focus on the negative, things go south. Interesting fact, you can't actually change a thought. It's very difficult or stop yourself thinking of a thought. If I say to you, don't think of a big, ripe, juicy orange. Immediately into your head, you see a big, ripe, juicy orange. You have no choice because we have a reactive mind. So now if you try and stop thinking about that orange, it's just going to get bigger and bigger in your head.
Yeah.
But if I say to you, replace it with a bunch of grapes, now there's grapes in your head.
I replaced it.
Exactly. So what happens, that's what we need to do with our thoughts, is don't try and fight your thoughts. When you're in a negative spiral, when you're feeling like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm not a great communicator, or I'm not a good leader, or how am I going to get this business off the ground? Just notice the thought and replace it with a more empowering.
Right.
And give your mind examples of success. 3 is a good number. Give yourself examples of where you've been successful before. And this can relate to relationships, to business, to families. The moment that you start focusing on everything that's wonderful, for example, about your husband, I always say, if I focus on everything wrong, I have the most wonderful husband. But I always say, if I focus on everything wrong with him, I don't think we would still be together because he has wonderful aspects about him and he has things that really frustrate me. If I focused on those and harping on those, I would not be creating a very happy relationship. But I choose to focus on all the positive aspects of him and our relationship. And yeah, the proof's in the pudding. We've been married for over 30 years now, and we still adore each other. But it's a conscious choice that I'm making, not to nitpick, not to focus on the negative, but to look for positive aspects. And really, in your field, I know you're very much aware of all the positive aspects of your business. And
It's taken years.
yeah, it does. It's taken a long time, but you've constantly, in the process, when we've had discussions and you've gone, what's the next step? Do I have the confidence to take that step? You have stayed consistently positive about this business and about the possibilities of where you can go. And look at where you are now. And when you've had concerns or worries, or we started focusing on the negative aspects, you've changed track, moved back into a positive mindset. And that's what you were talking about. The mindset is incredibly important. And that is something that people don't feel they have control over. I always say, if you don't control your thinking, who is controlling your thinking? Is it your mother, your father, your boss? Who's controlling your thinking? You are creating your experience every day. And the way you create it is through your thinking. And so if you can master your thinking, create intentions, and focus on the positive, just those three things are going to ensure success.
And do the work.
Do the work. Here's the interesting thing, though, is if you're feeling motivated, which you will be if you are centered, if you're focusing on the positive, if you're thinking thoughts that are empowering, you are going to feel motivated to do the work.
Right.
When you are feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling, I can't do this isn't working, how am I going? You don't even want to get out of bed to go and do the work.
True.
So it's really important. I think here also, I've been working with your managers and for you as a manager, and for those of our listeners out there that are managers, it's really important that you develop a mindset in your people to train them to focus on the positive, to train them to have a positive mindset, and also to train them to be solution oriented.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I've noticed is that people go, oh, this is a problem, I can't fix it. And they'll go to the manager and say, you fix it all. So I have this policy of when somebody comes to me with a problem in my business, I say, what is the solution? To the point now where they'll come and say, I have this problem and I think this is the solution. Can you just check if this is the right solution for this? And what happens then is suddenly you have a workspace where the mindset is there's always a solution and I can find it,
Yeah.
rather than, this is so frustrating. How can we get past this? This is a mess. Because when you get into that thinking, obviously then it takes you on the downward spiral into frustration, overwhelm, and positive expectation, inspiration, good ideas, solution don't become an option. And that's why also as a manager, it's really important to notice the mood of the people under you and keep inspiring them
Yeah.
to keep that positive mindset.
Look, I mean, definitely that. But what is also interesting to observe is again we have a bunch of young people, some of them did job, and interesting because yes, it's very difficult to get to a point where you've done your first sale, especially you fresh out of school, second, third year university, and now you're going into the real world as a real estate practitioner candidate. But the difficulty is also that you have to be self-motivated. You know, my first job was literally I had to go somewhere at 8 and leave at 5. So however motivated or demotivated I was, it didn't matter because I was there at 8 and somehow the day went by. Now you have to have a person who is self-driven, self-motivated, is going through months and months of maybe not seeing the success, planted the seeds, not seeing anything coming out. And what I'm finding is it's difficult. The industry is such that, again, you see the beautiful houses and you want to be there. You want to be the one, the photo, the sold sign in front of a beautiful house. But us, the majority of us that are in the company, the older agents, were only there maybe 5 years in. And it's an interesting um, dilemma for a lot of the guys, that are joining to do you really go for a very boring first job and learn to work and then go into real estate? Or do you just go in and keep at it for maybe a year, maybe 2 years before you actually start seeing the results? So I'm still kind of in between. Is this a profession that one should venture into in maybe slightly more mature years, or not? It's the verdict's out there, really.
I think also it depends on the person.
Yeah,
We have a situation, unfortunately, with our schooling where children require external motivation a lot. So you get
true.
accolades, you get prizes, you get certificates, you get trophies, you get, and also,
Participation.
yes, and also a lot of the time you're doing this to please a parent or to please your teacher or to please somebody else. And the self-motivation doesn't really come in. Interestingly enough, I'm finding that homeschool children are often a lot more self-motivated because they have to be. If they don't do the work, they're simply going to fail. There's nobody there to say, come on, you can do this. Well done. You're amazing. They literally have to be self-motivated and self-driven. And what happens is that then they go into a business like yours, for example, they're already in the pattern of self-study, self-learning, getting up and going and sitting at that computer and doing your homeschooling, even in your pajamas, but you've got to do it. You've got to be there. Otherwise you're just going to fail. So I think that a lot of it has to do with the kind of person as well, and the kind of schooling they had, and did they go to a university, and was the university they have to do a lot of self-study. I think that for me, everybody should own their own business at some point in their life, even if it's just a lemonade store. That's why I love these entrepreneur things where children get an opportunity to do entrepreneurs. Because when you're working for somebody, it's very easy to go, oh, it's just a job and I'm going to be there from 8 till 5. And you know what? I'll do the bare minimum. And if I'm feeling a bit sickly, I'll stay home and be sick. When you're running your own business, there's no choice. Sometimes you're going to work till 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes you're going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning because that's what needs doing. When you're sick, you get in there and you do the job and you're just constantly driven because it's your own business. And I think that in a way is good with your agents because it is really their own little.
It is. That's spot on.
Yeah. And when they can understand that this is my future, my success that I'm focusing on, and that it's up to me.
Yeah.
And that if I do nothing, I'm going to get nothing. But if I stay driven and I stay motivated, and I think, in an industry where there can be months where there's very little positive feedback, you've got to develop some serious inner muscle.
Yeah, true. And that's so spot on, actually. Everyone is their own business owner. And often you like to kind of fall into the pattern of, okay, I'm just in the wrong agency, or I've got the terrible boss, or look at where the interest rates are. And it happens every now and then where I'll think, okay, the economy is really bad, or this estate is just not selling. And then I pull the reports, and it turns out that agent B there sold 20 properties and I sold nothing. And then, no, it's not the estate that's not selling, it's me that's not selling. So what am I doing that the other agent, is doing differently and better? And that is definitely something that I myself, with all the years, I have to keep reminding myself whenever I start getting into that pattern of, no, they can't, bad. And we see it with the agents, we'll say you need to make 10 to 20 to 30 calls per day to, be out there for people to notice you. And often a week, 2 weeks later, you chat to one of the new agents and you say, how's it going? I see, you haven't listed any houses. No, it's really terrible. My area is really bad. Let me check, how many calls did you make? Well, I haven't actually.
Mhm.
Well, that is the challenge, the work the work and the enthusiasm, they have to be together.
Yes, and they're constantly planting seeds, and I think that's also where your videos work really well, and those sort of cold calling works well, because although I might sound a bit irritated and go, I will remember you when my house does need to be sold, and then I'll see you on a billboard, or I'll see a video, or it's all about that awareness. And you don't know what seeds you're planting. You don't know how that they might mention to a cousin, oh, maybe you should try LuxLiv. They gave me a call.
Yeah.
You don't know where those seeds are going and how they're going to grow. And that's the thing, is to just keep yourself motivated to know, I'm planting the seeds, and at some point there's going to be a growth. And I think also we're very quick to go, oh, find excuses or to find blame. But that's very much an ego thing. The ego goes to victim or blame always, and doesn't always empower, automatically empower yourself. So you actually have to notice, where am I falling into victimhood and where am I blaming? And then stop that, because in the end, you have a choice. I met an amazing woman. I was doing a public speaking course for her, and she was a multimillionaire. She actually owned parts of various companies. She owned shares in a couple of companies. She was an elderly woman, and she said to me, she was next in line to be the principal at a school. It was a high school. And they didn't choose her because she was female. And this was a while ago, a long time ago. And she was so angry, she decided to leave teaching altogether because she was furious that they had had the cheek to say, sorry, we can't make you principal, you're a woman. So what she did is she joined a company that did company rescue. And what they would do is they would buy large shares in the company, put people in to rescue the company, assist the company in rescuing. And a lot of the time, rather than payment, they would give shares. So she got herself shares in all these companies. And she said she would often go into their boardrooms just with her knitting, looking like a little old granny, listening to everything that was going on. And they wouldn't realize that this woman actually owns shares in her company, in the companies. And she said to me, she was so grateful that they had said,
Yeah.
you can't become principal, because it made her take a new direction. And now she was sitting, a very wealthy and successful elderly woman who had her finger in their eyes. And yet she said, I had a choice. I could let it break me, or I could let it build me. I could let it make me despondent, or I could let it inspire me. And she allowed it to inspire her. She had another choice. She could just say, oh, well, I'll just stay a teacher then. But she
Listen.
chose to use that to inspire her. And here's the thing. Yes, the economy is bad. Wow. Here's the challenge. If I can sell in this economy, then that's saying something about me and my enthusiasm and my ability to stay the course and to remain centered, to keep that positive mindset, to keep feeling motivated. But it takes work. It's not something that comes naturally to all of us. But I think listening to podcasts like this is one way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, filling your mind with positivity. We hear a lot of negative all the time. And it's like Geiger, garbage in, garbage out. If you're constantly listening to bad news, you're constantly listening to how bad the economy is, how bad the country is, how bad everything is, that's what you're going to, it's going to become your perception of the world.
Yeah.
But
you project it.
But there's so much potential. There's so much opportunity. There's growth. There's future prospects. This is a country which has incredible potential and incredible opportunities if you choose to see them.
Spot on. And I mean, I've got an interesting story. The one time the only time I got fired from my job, but and it's not an inspirational story because I didn't, there was no revelation afterwards, and I grew to success and all that. But it's just an interesting fact. So I attempted to get a waitressing job in my 20s whilst I was studying, and it was this French restaurant, and the owner was quite should I say, intimidating personality. So I was so frozen, petrified of that man that I think I probably behaved like a half-wit. And after 2 days, he said, I'm not the right personality and fit. And I was horrified. I was absolutely, it took me months to get over this, what is wrong with me? How do you get fired from a waitressing position in your 20s? I didn't learn anything from that specific occasion then, but years later, what I'm seeing is that if you allow that, I call it the wall. If you allow someone to come past your kind of your protection or in terms of who you are, they can make you think that you are not nothing. And in real estate, it's so easy if you're not ready and if you're not prepared to block the negativity. It's so easy to be overcome by that.
Yes. And allow it to define you.
Allow it to define you, but also to fail. And if you have, again, if you are a new agent, but even with years of experience, if you were not ready for it, what I've seen now with it's almost like a negotiation tactic by some people who have learned that if they go on the offense immediately when they walk into a house, let's say a potential buyer, and they want to buy this house, but they want to buy it at 50% the price. Okay. From the word go, they walk in and they trash everything, and they also do a bit of a personal attack at you. Oh, you didn't give me that information, or you misrepresented something. you are so much busy defending yourself because you're being attacked that you miss the point. They're actually just trying to get the house on the cheap. And sometimes you get it and you're like, no, I see what you're doing. And you find, but that's the times when your inner walls were up and you were ready for it. And like you said, the knowledge of who you are and what you know was there. But sometimes they catch you unawares. And back to with a younger agent, maybe less experienced agent, the first time they encounter this, it's quite
It's
scary.
hectic. It feels like you're back
Yeah.
at school being
Yeah.
bullied, you know?
Yeah.
Because in the end, we all have a need for approval. And we also all want peace. So when somebody comes to you in attack mode and when attacking you personally, it's very difficult not to entertain it or buy into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, our own thoughts are attacking us. You know, we tend to, we have a voice in our head, and it'll be like, "Oh, you messed up," or "Oh, you're not looking great today," or it's got something to say, but it sometimes sounds like our mother or our teacher or our sister or whoever was negative in our lives, and we hear the voice. And for me, it's always interesting that we entertain that. If somebody came into your home and said, "This home is disgusting and it stinks and you're awful and this is horrible," and you would say, "Excuse me, would you like to leave? Because you really
True.
are just dismissing and being extremely negative in my space, and it's very toxic, and I'd like you to leave." But we allow those thoughts and we entertain those thoughts. And the thing is to really become self-aware, to become aware of what our thoughts are thinking. When I'm working with teenagers particularly, or high school students, in terms of developing their communication skills and their public speaking skills, I always give them the example of, before you're going to do a presentation, you probably have a voice in your head that's saying, "Oh, you're going to mess this up. This is so bad. You're not prepared." If that was a coach, like a netball coach or a soccer coach, and they were saying, "You're a useless team, you're going to lose," that's no way to motivate the
True.
team. In fact, your parents would probably get them fired.
Yeah.
But we allow that coach space in our head.
Yeah.
And we just need to become very aware of our own thoughts, because what happens then is entertain the opinions of others. We take other people's opinions far too seriously.
Yeah.
It's just their opinion. They have a story about you. Is that story correct? They don't even know you. And yet we let it affect our mood. We give them power.
Yeah.
I always used to say to my son, "Why are you giving your power away to somebody who you don't even know, whose opinions are really not important?" Whose opinions are more important here? Your own and your family's and the people who know you. So just laugh at it, don't allow it in. And that's what you're talking about, the wall is.
Yeah.
My husband has a thing: water off a duck's back, take it from whence it comes. You don't have to buy into people's opinions of you. They've got their own stuff going. It's probably a projection anyway.
Yeah.
They've met somebody that they didn't like before, or they've got an agenda. Like with
They've
that,
got an
they've got an agenda.
a lot of the times.
And if you give your power away, you are a victim to their agenda,
Yeah.
and you don't want to give them that power.
Yeah.
So that's again where that inner muscle comes in, and you guard your mood, you guard your frame of mind, and you guard your heart to make sure that you don't allow that kind of your toxicity in, because it's irrelevant. It's not important.
Yeah.
It's just a person who just makes opinion,
Yeah.
and it only gets power if you believe it.
So
Buy into
on
it.
the practical side, I mean, we obviously train a lot on public speaking, and you've done wonders, and I really love feedback you're giving now with videos that we're doing. And the interesting thing is, I'm absolutely petrified, mortified if you said to me there's group of people stand up in front and speak. But for me, it wasn't difficult to do the videos because it's very impersonal. There's a camera in front of it. It's not it's not a group of people I don't know. And obviously, when we started the videos, it was during COVID time. It was us, a couple of us agents, holding the camera, Raji from our office, we were helping each other, but you're talking to friends, so you're in a very, very friendly environment. But in a previous life, when I was in the corporate world, I literally couldn't say a word. Okay, so the throat goes like this, and word number two, you already sweating and turning red and all that. Practically, okay, telling people out there, what do you do? Do you like cough beforehand?
So adrenaline affects people in different ways.
Yeah.
I have literally had someone faint from adrenaline.
I think I was close.
Literally, you fell over, gunk. It First of all, one of the things it does is it takes all the blood from your head. It takes it to the muscles because it's in fight or flight syndrome. And that's why people go blank and then panic. And that just gives you another shot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Adrenaline can feel like literally a panic attack. Heart palpitating, you can hear your heart. Sometimes voice goes weird or throat feels like it wants to close. One of the typical ones is mouth goes exceptionally dry. That's also because the blood is going to the muscles. You also will have extra energy. So people don't quite know what to do with the extra energy because the energy is the adrenaline literally gives you energy. And I've seen people like do up their jacket and undo their jacket or, shake their hands or, flick their hands, do something to try and get rid of the energy. So when I was in America, I was very blessed to win the Southern African Championships of Public Speaking and be speaking against the best speakers in the world. And there was an Australian guy and he was backstage and he was shadowboxing. And I was like, what are you doing? He said, I'm getting rid of extra adrenaline. And made so much sense to me. I'm just shaking it out. Another example is like tightening the muscles and relaxing muscles. But also, panic attack is the fear of that feeling. People don't like that feeling. It feels very scary.
Yeah.
But if you just remind yourself, okay, this is adrenaline. How does this feel in my body? Okay, I can hear my heart, right? My mouth is dry. I'm getting the shakes. This is how this feels. Just being present with it and not trying to fight it. What you resist persists.
Okay.
If you don't try and fight it, just be with it. Tell the truth about it. Shoo, this is how my nervousness is manifesting.
Okay.
See, an interesting thing is that you get adrenaline when you're super excited.
Yeah.
And you get adrenaline when you're super nervous. The difference is the thoughts.
Okay.
So when I get adrenaline, I tell myself I'm excited. Whoopee, I've got extra energy. Yeah, this is amazing. I like this feeling. Some people are adrenaline junkies. They love adrenaline. But a lot of people are very frightened of that feeling. The thing is to notice, hey, this is just a chemical reaction in the body. This is how it manifests in my body. Take some deep breaths. Get rid of the extra energy. And tell the truth about it. Right now I'm experiencing nervousness, but I know it's adrenaline and it's going to calm down. And when you practice, be in front of you. The problem is that you avoid audiences because you hate this feeling. So you get and more and more. I work with people who have phobias of public speaking that we can get past. And the trick is to put yourself out there, even if it's terrifying. Even tell them, I'm terrified right now. I'm so nervous. There was a very sweet young girl. I was giving out awards at a graduation ceremony. And she was the Dux from the previous year. And she came up onto stage. And, it's one of those moments when they go, and everybody's going, oh, my God, oh, this poor child, what's going to happen? And I was watching the adrenaline and thinking, how is she going to handle this now? Is she going to run off the stage crying? Is she going to excuse herself? What's going to happen here? Because this could go very wrong. And she suddenly went, sorry, I just had to get rid of some nervousness. Hello, everybody. And she was fine. And it actually warmed everybody to her. Everybody was just like, oh, yay, that was sweet. And then she was fine. And I thought, what a wonderful way to handle it. She told the truth. I'm really, really nervous right now. And immediately it dissipated. It's when you're trying to resist it and trying to resist the feeling and don't want to feel this adrenaline that it becomes a problem. So if the one tip is look at your thoughts, because your thoughts are making the experience scary. Don't resist it. Tell the truth about it.
Okay.
Breathe through it. Adrenaline does not last for very long.
Right.
And just remind yourself that this is normal. Every single person on the planet experiences this. Even myself. I do presentations, public speaking. I speak at conferences. I'm a keynote speaker. I've spoken for thousands of people. There's always that adrenaline. But I've learned to use it to sparkle. I've learned to enjoy the feeling. But it's still there. It's definitely still there. So everybody experiences it, and everybody experiences it in a different way. Tell the truth about it, watch your thoughts, get rid of some of the extra energy, and just wait for it to dissipate. You will be fine. Nobody's died from public speaking, although they do feel like they're going to sometimes.
So actually, I mean, this I think is quite profound, because naming, kind of pointing out the elephant in the room is very um, freedom
Yeah, it's relief.
relief. Yeah,
Immediately
it's,
it's relief.
absolutely relieving, but also it shows people that you're human, because I think maybe it's back to the ego. You want to be perfect. You know your voice is sounding croaky and you've turned red,
Yes.
and you're so worried about what you look like.
Because the ego immediately is
Yeah.
at play, and the ego feels like you're in danger
Yeah.
of being rejected. And that is the ego's greatest fear.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is the people who really don't care what anybody thinks and just are themselves and are very real up there, they're charming. People just immediately like them. But the ones that are so worried about what people are thinking and that are like all nervous, and they're the ones that end up being judged. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So the more you just go, you know what? It's just human beings. I'm just going to be me. And that's okay. You know,
Yeah.
half the people are going to like you, half aren't. Are you going to just keep changing chameleon so that everybody likes you? It's not possible. You know, some will, some won't. So what?
And that's the thing with agents. I mean, I think we sometimes do get intimidated if, maybe our house is not the most inspiring house, but there's a house for everyone, and it's maybe not inspiring for me, but it might be the perfect house for someone else. So we get so worried if, people, we keep getting the rejection, because you do get, if we sold every time we show the house, we will be not billionaire, but I don't know what's the
Like a
next number.
trillionaires.
Trillion, trillionaires. But
Yeah.
but we don't, and if I was to look at, on average, let's say you show a house 20 to 30 times sometimes before, so in other words, before someone puts an offer. So that means you have to get the rejection 30 times before you get the approval. This is a very high rejection rate, where you need to stay positive and you need to accept it, that that's what it is. And you might build or get an offer, rather, should I say, and that offer falls through. So that's even a bigger rejection,
Yes.
because let's say the person's bond wasn't approved. So there's so much rejection that you're dealing with before you're getting that one nod, that one positive tick in the box.
So let me ask you, because
Yeah.
you've been in this industry for a long time, how do you handle the rejection?
So I actually, it was trial by fire, because my first job in real estate was actually a relocation agent. So what I used to do is assist foreign top executives who would be sent to South Africa for a period of anything from 3 to 10 years to be the CEO of various international companies. And that was literally throwing me in the deep end in my late 20s as my first real job, because these people were not easy people. All of them on time, incredible time pressure to choose a house for their family, and their choice would then influence how happy the family is for the next 4 years in a foreign country, in a foreign environment. So my first few assignments where I had to take these people by the hand and find them houses were horrible. I used to cry every single night when I get home. My hubby would literally know he can't talk to me for like hours, because I will go into such a decline, because they'll tell me I showed them are horrible. Don't I know how busy they are? And people can get very, very, very tough. And with, I call it, it's almost like when a dog knows you're scared, they bite you. When they know you're inexperienced. I mean, I was so desperate to prove myself. Later on, I ended up buying the company, but at the time, I was an employee of the company, and it was really horrible. But for me, it was, this is it. I need to make this work. I can't be a waitress for the rest of my life. I was in my 20s, but I finished my studies. I needed to get a real job in life. And it was just no option. There was just no way, any other way this was going to work. So I can't say I loved it, but I started loving it after a couple of years. But that's how I learned to just keep going and improving my attitude towards them, improving the way I respond to them. But later on, when we started, then selling houses and so on, again, it was tough. You get an offer on a very expensive house and you think, wow, finally I made it. And that would be a nonsense offer because we get a lot of those as agents, believe it or not. And it will be someone that just signed an offer for no good reason or just to feel inspired to maybe earn the money one day. So
Goodness.
again, super difficult. So I can honestly say I'm not a fast learner. I think it's taken me well over 10 years to learn just to move on. And I do analyze certain things. What did I miss? What could I have done better and differently? But also not to necessarily feel that it's all my fault. Now I'm starting to see.
Yes, I think also you touch on an important point there. You were very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's like the dog realizing you're scared. I think you'll find that as your agents become, and as you became more confident,
Yeah.
as you became more sure of yourself, you knew that this negativity or this toxicity isn't real.
Yeah.
That's not who I am. That's not real.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I'm not like that. You're making things up.
Yeah.
You're trying to manipulate me here.
Yeah.
Because you were very confident in yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that comes with experience and with success. Success breeds success. As your agents become more confident, believe in themselves more, believe in their product more, they're going to notice the tricksters. They're going to notice the ones who are trying to manipulate. And they're going to let it bounce off them because they know it's true. I remember, my son coming to me and saying, "Mom, Jeremy says I'm a girl." And I said to him, "Is that true?" And he was like, "No." I said, "So why is it bothering you?" And I think that that's what is really important, is to realize this is a person's perception of you, that you don't even know them. They're projecting something onto you that has got nothing to do with you. And so you don't have to own it. You don't have to entertain it. You can, and humor helps here, where you can go, "Really? Really? That's what you're going to say to me?"
Yeah.
Because then you realize the ridiculousness of it, and you don't have to give yourself away to it or give power to it.
Yeah. Yeah, but also, I think it also helps to really, really want that end result,
Keep the end result in mind.
as an agent, you need to be fully committed, and not for a month, not for 2 months.
Yeah.
You need to go full commitment. I would say 2 to 3 years actually, before you say, okay, this is totally not me. Absolutely, it's not my type of job. But you can't actually say in month 3, I've done no deals, or I've done, I think I've done everything, but have you really done everything? But let's say you have done everything and you didn't succeed in the first 6 months to a year. I actually don't think it's a long enough time. It's
No,
not.
but that applies to any business that you've started.
Yeah, yes.
How often doesn't a person buy a business or start a business, and the first couple of struggles, the first couple of failures, we overestimate the power of failure. There's
Yeah.
wonderful books like Failing Forward.
Yeah.
So many people tell you that you learn from your mistakes, and your millionaires and billionaires will say, "I failed many times along the way." But it's a very difficult thing to actually live through, is that failure. Pick yourself up, dust off, keep persisting, keep the end in mind. And whether you've just opened up your own business, whether you're starting off as an entrepreneur, or whether you're trying in your field to move into leadership, the important thing is to continue believing in yourself, believing in your product, and persistence. Keep going. As you say, you can't, the first sign of failure, or a couple of failures, or a couple of months of failures. This is an industry that takes time. You take time to develop relationships with your customers. You take time to develop the kind of personality that is required for this. And that is where it's so important with the training and with the constant mentorship. I know you have systems in place where your agents are constantly mentored, because they need to develop these skills so that they can keep that self-motivation and that persistence. And then again, with all that positivity that you're giving them, I think that is going to help with the failure and the negativity, not to own it, not to take it too seriously, not to take other people's perceptions too seriously, but to build that confident persona that is not based on bravado or pretense, but on the very real idea that I'm doing the best that I can right now, and that's good enough. And I'm doing the work to ensure that I keep my mindset positive, to keep my mind positive, to keep my mood elevated, to keep myself empowered. And as long as that is happening, success has to happen.
So again, practical in the morning, what do you do to get your, what do you say? Mantras? Do you meditate?
So I'm a firm believer in the power of gratitude and also the power of just in general positivity. So one of the things that I'll do is gratitude is kind of for things that already happened. Appreciation is for what is here now. And then I also do what I'm looking forward to. So I've done this with your staff as well. And any topic in your life. So for example, the topic of my business, looking back on what I'm grateful for, everything that I've learned, everything that I've achieved thus far. If you're a young entrepreneur, every experience that you've had has led you to where you are now. Then appreciation for where you are right now in this moment, in terms of your relationships you're building, the business you're building, the confidence that you're building, skills that you are developing in order to be a success. And then what I'm looking.
Okay.
So what's happening then is you're creating a positive mindset for past, present, and future. And that's very powerful. So for me, it's about gratitude. Every day I practice gratitude. I do appreciation. I love and appreciate this beautiful day. I love and appreciate my car. I love and appreciate my client that I'm going to go see. I love and appreciate. And I do what's called a rampage of appreciation, where I just mention everything I love and appreciate, from my family to my cat. I appreciate everything.
Every single day.
Yes, usually do it in my car. Very easy, quick thing to do.
And you appreciate the same thing every day.
Yes, it doesn't matter, but new things come up. You'll find yourself appreciating really silly little things. But it puts you. Imagine if you drove in your car and thought about everything that you hated and everything that you didn't appreciate. You're going to put yourself in a negative mindset.
Yes.
And people say to me, how come you have so much energy? How come you're always enthusiastic? Well, that's why. I choose to focus on the positive, and I do it through this process. And then I think about what I'm looking forward to. That my husband and I during COVID, because I almost lost my business completely during COVID, because we rely on business in the schools and I rely on clients one-on-one, and it just all disappeared. And we were feeling like quite bonded. And I said to him, what are we looking forward to? Let's find something every day, every week, every month to look forward to. It's going to change our mindset. And we literally did that. And it was very powerful. So gratitude for the past, appreciation for the present, what I'm looking forward to. Developing that inner muscle to keep your self-worth, your valuing yourself, your positivity, your energy is a skill. It's something you have to practice.
Yeah. So you stop yourself and you say, let's change the narrative, change the story.
Yes, and replace the thought. Don't try and stop the thought. I hate my life. This is such a difficult day. You can't stop that thought, but you can think a more powerful thought. I've been here before. I've got over it. I can do this. I've done this before, and I can do it again. When you're in that negative state, there's no use trying to jump to, I'm a happy person. I'm so amazing. I'm so powerful. I'm fantastic. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's too high up on the scale.
Yeah.
What you can do is think a thought that brings you relief and empowerment right now.
Yeah.
Put yourself up into positive expectation and then into inspiration.
Yeah.
Because that's where you are most creative. When you're down here in frustration and overwhelmment, you're not creative, you're reactive. And you always want to try and be a creative mind frame, because that's when you are able to solve problems. And that's when you are self-motivated.
Okay, so keep the right mindset.
And develop your skills, whether it's in communication or whatever. The more skills you have, the more confident you're going to feel about who you are and what you're capable of in your particular field.
In fact, you can have the most amazing skills if you can't communicate them. Then, so communication.
That's why I'm so passionate about communication.
Yeah. And you definitely, you communicate to me. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I really enjoyed it.
I also appreciate it. It's always very inspiring for me. I always feel like, I'm lighting up. So, I hope this inspires some of our aspiring agents, because I really feel it's an awesome industry to be in. But you need to work at it, and you need to work at the mindset, and you need to do the groundwork. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.